Have you ever been driving down the highway and you look down and you see this little red light pops up on your dashboard and you think, I'll deal with that later. But if you wait too long, you may find yourself stranded on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck and some pretty expensive repair bills that may have been avoided. Well, life has its own dashboard. Those dials and gauges designed to keep us healthy and enjoying this very precious journey of life. The problem is many of us often ignore those warning signs until we're wobbling down the road with smoke billowing out behind us, or worse yet, we're stranded on the side of the road and wondering how life got so bad. Today, we're going to look at 3 dashboard gauges that will get you from limping along in that slow lane of life into the thriving lane of life. Windows down, joy up, and fully alive.
Hi there, I'm Denise. I started this fully alive journey after winning a pretty tough battle with cancer. I came away with a whole new perspective and appreciation for life. Now, as I'm leaning into retirement, I'm discovering and sharing practical ways to live a fully alive life for many years to come.
So how's it looking under your hood? Any oil leaks, sluggish starts, or strange knocking noises? So our heart is like our vehicle's engine, and it is the hardest working muscle that we have in our body. It pumps 2,000 gallons of blood through your body every day. Every minute of every day, it never stops working. But because we can't see that muscle in the mirror, or it doesn't necessarily make us look better in our jeans, so often we don't give it the attention that it deserves. Well, recently, I've been thinking more and more about longevity, not just adding more years to my life, but making sure that those years are full of health and strength and energy. Well, here's a somewhat sobering statistic. In the US, about 800,000 people a year have a heart attack, and about 800,000 people a year have a stroke. But keeping your heart strong, your blood pressure in check, and your arteries clear, that will help you keep your name out of those statistics. Your future self is calling to you. Do something today so that you're not a statistic tomorrow. Whether you're a VW Bug or a Ferrari, every engine needs maintenance. It sits too long and the parts start to seize, the battery drains, and then corrosion sets in. Anyone else have any seizing joints after getting up from sitting too long? Or maybe feeling a drain on your battery? Well, here are some symptoms that indicate a heart check might be in order. So if you're winded easily, you're fatigued often, maybe swelling in your ankles or lower legs at the end of the day, or you get up quickly and you get this dizziness or lightheadedness, these aren't just signs of getting older. This is your heart saying, hey, I need a little maintenance here. It wasn't until I got this watch that tracked my heart rate that I realized, hey, my heart needs a little maintenance. Those years of sitting behind a desk without a regular exercise routine, that really didn't do me any favors. So I went out and I bought an elliptical machine, determined to focus on and improve my heart health. Well, that first session, it was only 2 minutes, no incline, the slowest pace. But, I was huffing and puffing. My face was red. I could barely make it off the elliptical. It was pretty pathetic. But the thing that I kept telling myself, the thing that got me back on the next day is my heart. It is the most important muscle that I have. And I could hear my future self cheering me on. You can do this. So now I'm up to 10 minutes. Gosh, a much faster pace and just feeling the energy and strength. I have a lot more energy than I've had in years. And in just that short amount of time, I have improved my odds of not being stranded on the side of the road with some hefty repair bills in my future. Even a little movement can make a big difference. When you move, your heart is pumping oxygen-rich blood and nutrients to all your systems, and it's also flushing out metabolic waste. So start slow, find some easy wins. Take the dog for a walk around the neighborhood, or if you live near a beach or a park or a hiking trail, even better. Get outside and enjoy feeling your body move. Maybe do your morning stretches and some deep breathing as a way to start each day. Maybe join a Zumba class or take up pickleball or golf. Just something that will keep you engaged and keep your body moving. Because even the smallest movements, that walk, that stretching, that dancing around your kitchen, literally keeps you off of the side of the road and in that thriving lane. Just a quick note here. Check with your doctor before you start or ramp up any exercise routine. You may think you're healthy, but your numbers could surprise you. I know mine did. But even the best tuned engine doesn't make up for rough roads. So next, we're going to look at a dial that will keep you from rattling apart when the road ahead gets bumpy. But first, if you're enjoying this content, I'd invite you to hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell so you're notified of when the next video drops. The average American experiences 3 to 5 life potholes every single day. It's that unexpected bill, that difficult conversation, or that worry that wakes you up at 3 a.m. Without a good suspension system, life can feel a lot harder than it needs to. Gratitude, it's life's suspension system. Those shocks that help absorb the bumps in the road and keep the drive smooth, and the tires properly inflated and aligned so that you don't veer off course when you hit a big bump in the road. And gratitude isn't about everything being perfect. It's just about noticing the good things in life, even when the road gets bumpy. Research shows that gratitude can lower your cortisol by 23% and boost your vagal term. That's your body's way of staying calm and steady under pressure. Think of it as your body's built-in shock-absorbing system. And brain imaging shows that practicing gratitude regularly actually strengthens neural pathways for dopamine and serotonin. Those are your body's feel-good, happy emotions. I love when science backs up what we've seen in scripture all along, that a happy, thankful, joyful heart is good both physically and emotionally. A merry heart, it does good like a medicine. So my husband and I saw the power of this gratitude when we were foster parents, caring for children who had to be removed from their home. We started this dinner time practice where we just go around the table and each person would share one thing in their day that they were thankful for. At first, it was silence and blank stares and, completely understandable given the circumstances that these children were dealing with. But with just a little bit of modeling and encouragement, soon they were sharing just the simple basic things of life, like, I'm thankful for dinner on the table, macaroni and cheese, it's my favorite. But soon they were starting to tap into the deeper things in life. Like, someone talked to me at school today, I'm thankful for a new friend. Or, I'm glad I got to visit with my mom today. She looks like she's doing better. That little practice slowly moved their heart from this place of heaviness to hope. It didn't change their circumstances. It just made the ride feel a lot smoother. So here are a few things that you might want to try to build in those gratitude shocks in your life. Try this dinner table conversation. It's a great way to keep your mind focused on the things that are good in your day. Or maybe try a gratitude jar. I can see these crafters out there that could really do something fun with this. But even if it's just writing on a post-it note every day, one thing that you're thankful for, and drop it in the jar. Then when the road gets bumpy, pull out your gratitude jar and remind yourself, that life is pretty good. Or, just practice a gratitude break. Take a pause, deep breath, and think, what is one thing that I'm thankful for right now? Gratitude. It doesn't change the road. It just changes how we travel it. Now, even with a strong engine and a good suspension system tuned up and in place, there's one more gauge that we need to look at. That's our fuel gauge. Because even the best running car won't go very far if there's not fuel in the tank. So, how do we fill our life tank? By engaging in something meaningful. Even connecting or contributing in a small way. It gives our life purpose and it fills our tank. And the science agrees. Let me throw out some statistics here that are pretty interesting. So, a Stanford study found that those who regularly gave their time or resources, get this, added 4 to 7 years to their life odometer. 4 to 7 years by engaging and giving of their resources or their time. That's a good investment. And then another study showed that seniors who volunteered suffered 50% less from depression. And a Wharton research showed that for every dollar that you give, it makes you feel like you've spent $3 on yourself. So I stumbled on this when in my kitchen, of all places, when I had started this new sourdough bread journey. I thought, this sounds like a little adventure. And I thought, well, I've made bread before. This shouldn't be too hard. But, well, sourdough bread, it's a bit of a deal. But here's the thing. The bigger the effort, the more it seems to fill your tank. Apparently, our bodies like a challenge. And so the really cool part, that was fun. Like I said, it did kind of fill my tank. But the really cool part is when it went outside my kitchen. So I started bringing sourdough bread to family gatherings. And now, that's top of the list that Denise has to bring, the sourdough bread. And usually it's the rosemary garlic that is top of that list. And then I make extra loaves to just give away for whatever. Or I'll put them in a little bread basket bundle and give as a housewarming gift or a Christmas gift. Those small acts of creating and sharing and then seeing someone's face light up, those don't just warm your heart. They actually fuel your brain's dopamine and oxytocin. That's your brain's connection and joy chemicals. Boy, what good things to fill your tank with. And here are a few ways that you might consider topping off your tank. Maybe volunteer at your church, your community center, a food bank. Make a connection. Write a note to that person you've lost touch with, or bake some homemade cookies for the busy mom next door. You're sure to be a hit on that one. Engage with something that interests you, and then look for a way to share that. Maybe a craft, quilting, or start your own sourdough bread journey. Because when you pour into something meaningful, it always pours back into you. It just takes a little regular maintenance to keep you in that thriving lane, to keep your tank filled for whatever the road ahead holds. Well, thanks for coming along for the ride. Comment below and let me know how your life's dashboard is looking these days, and maybe what dials you've been inspired to turn. Maybe a 10-minute walk to get your engine tuned up, or taking a 60-second gratitude pause, or one small act of giving to refuel your tank. Until next time, let's keep driving like every mile matters, because it does.